We thought of putting our minds together in this type of conversation was because we all realize that we are tackling one element or the other within this urban space that we all desire to see transform into something that is uniquely different. We all share a common concern on the poor. The reason the Civil Society Urban Development Program was put in place in 2010 as an initiative of the Embassy of Sweden and hosted by Magina Ofanisi was to deliberately try and demystify that space, try and get us within the entire urban space, not to just talk about integrated urban development and planning, but to integrate ourselves, to synergize ourselves, to start to see how we can have a collective front in addressing some of the concerns that we see happening with our people every day, but more particularly to try and see how much of the asset worth we have cultivated over the years can start now to bear a semblance of change as we go into this devolution era. But what devolution guaranteed us is that it provided this democratic space in which we can invest on the citizens. We can get the citizens to start to up the game, to start to take their aspirations to the next level, to start to speak to the ills and also the gains of society, to start to remind us as interfaces between the different parties that we also need to reculture ourselves in a certain way. So what we are hoping to see happening in this conference is actually a continuing conversation. We've had this conversation at different levels. We've had conversation at the Council of Governors level, when initially we were seeing a lot of detachment in terms of how urban was being given attention. And principally because in the initial setup of the Council of Governors, there wasn't a committee per se that was particularly investing directly in the urban development arena. And we're very happy that the Council of Governors established the Urban Development Committee, which I think for me is a very, very good plus. Aligned to that Urban Development Committee, there's been a lot of conversation that has gone on. And we're asking ourselves, how do we supply knowledge into the Urban Development Committee? Because it is through that knowledge that they start to inform some of the policy decision areas. And then the establishment of the Urban Sector Reference Group then came in place, because it then anchors the Urban Development Committee from a perspective of knowledge and advisory. Constantly looking, scanning the environment in the urban and saying, how can we make this a more livable urban space, even as the counties start to acquire this new ambition of creating capitals in the 47 different counties. All this practice needs to be harnessed in a certain way. So we say, if the summit of these decisions for counties is at the Council of Governors, if the Urban Development Committee provides us with a policy speak space where we need to go and start engaging, and if the Urban Sector Reference Group is a knowledge avenue through which we start to supply these elements of knowledge to the urban sector, to the Council of Governors, where is the practice? And I think for us, as we have this conversation, even as we try to unpack the conversation around the policy dialogues, around the social dialogues, around the dignity dialogues, we're actually trying to interrogate ourselves in terms of the worth, the value we have brought into those particular dialogues.